It's times like these where you find yourself in the dark without a flashlight and you just wish you were able to see something. Well, luckily for me, I actually have night vision goggles, and these things allow me to see perfectly in the dark. Hey everyone, this is Syntax, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make night vision goggles in Fortnite Creative. Before we begin though, just a couple of disclaimers. One, there is no such thing as night vision goggles in this game. Obviously, what we're going to be doing is similar to a lot of my other tutorials in the sense that we are going to be creating the illusion of having night vision goggles, just like we create the illusion of movement, the illusion of AI, the illusion of everything. We're just making an illusion. It should also be noted that if you want this to look as good as it possibly can, you should have the player in first person in sort of an enclosed area, and you're going to want to hide their HUD. But I mean, if you don't want to do any of that, then that's fine. Anyway, for this mechanic to work, you're going to need a signal remote manager along with its corresponding signal remote, 2 SkyDome devices, and a HUD controller device. Starting off with the signal remote manager, I have it enabled at game start and the cooldown is 1 second. This cooldown time is going to be the period in which you can actually turn on and off the night vision goggles. So like if you only want to be able to toggle them every 5 seconds, then just make this 5 seconds. But I have it set to 1 second. We won't be worrying about enabling or disabling this thing, but on primary activation and on secondary activation, you want to have these set up on 2 different channels. So for me, that's channel 1 and 2. Then all I want to do is head over to weapons and grab one of the 4 signal remote rarities. I'm just going to grab the gold one and throw it in there. Whichever one you do grab, make sure that the player is granted that corresponding signal remote at some point during the game, or else this won't work. So if you drop a blue in there, make sure they get a blue remote. You drop a purple in there, make sure they get a purple remote. You get it. Next, we are going to be setting up our SkyDome devices that are going to be creating the illusion of night vision goggles, that classic green tint that everything gets when you throw night vision goggles on. Yeah, that's what these are for. The settings for the first one are super simple. Make sure this is enabled during gameplay only, or if you're enabling it sometime later in the map, just make sure it gets enabled at some point. And then you're going to have light source, all the SkyDome colors, all the fog, and all the ambient light set to black. As you can see, it's super bright out now, but if you set everything to black, as soon as you activate this, you just can't see anything. Anyway, for this next SkyDome device, you're actually going to want to focus a lot of your colors to green. Now, I did not use the actual quote-unquote green color for this light source color. If you scroll all the way down to the second to last row, I use this green right here, but I mean, you can just play around with it in your island and see what works best for you. It's also important that the light source intensity is 5%. You want it to be as low as possible because it's still supposed to be dark, but like you're supposed to be able to see some things, if that makes sense. For the top, middle, and bottom color of the SkyDome, you can set this all to black. Now, for the horizon fog density and the horizon fog color, set this to black and 60%. The reason I put it at this is because we want the fog to be sort of in our way, making it darker, but if you put too much fog, then it just defeats the purpose of having night vision goggles. Also, too much fog takes away from the green tint, so you don't want to have an insane amount of fog. Make sure you're not using the volume, and for our ambient light, this is the exact same green that I showed you guys earlier. We want this to be at 100% because we need to be able to see in the dark, and we also want as much green as possible. So yeah, as far as color goes, that's what you want to have with your 2 SkyDomes. Just make sure you follow that exactly, and it will look exactly how it looked in the intro. Now, for the enabling and disabling of the SkyDome devices, whatever channel is going to be enabling one is going to disable the other. So this is our night vision goggle SkyDome. You can see the green color there. I have this being enabled when receiving from 1 and disabled when receiving from channel 2. Now, as you might have guessed, this is going to be the exact opposite. Our dark colored SkyDome is going to be enabled when receiving from 2 and disabled when receiving from 1. And if you remember, our signal remote manager is sending on channels 1 and 2. This means our shoot button, which is our primary activation, is going to send on channel 1. It's going to turn on the night vision goggles. And if we press our aim in button, which is our secondary fire, it is going to disable those night vision goggles, that SkyDome device, and enable the one that is super dark. And with the HUD controller, you just want to set show HUD to no because it hides the fact that there's actually a signal remote manager like in your inventory. Obviously, if you put it in your hand and it's like in your hand, then you're gonna see it, but that's why I said to put the map in first person, because then they just hear the clicking noise, and I mean, that's convincing enough that you're putting on night vision goggles. goggles. Like I said, everything is an illusion, nothing is real, and there's nothing we can do about it. Anyway, the last thing I'm going to do is actually drop the corresponding signal remote right in front of where I spawn. You want to actually grant this to a player, like at some point during your map. Maybe there's some stealth scene where you have to use your night vision goggles to actually see around, but like I'm just going to drop it to just show you what it looks like. Anyway, if you set everything up correctly, it should look something like this. Okay, so as you can see, the signal remote manager is in my hand, and like I said, if you're in first person, you're not actually going to see this. And if I click my shoot button, it's going to disable this dark sky dome and enable the green one. As you can see, there's my extremely bright name, and if I want to take off the night vision goggles, I can just go ahead and hit my aim in button. That will disable this sky dome and enable the dark one, so it's like I took my night vision goggles off. If you wanted to make it so the night vision goggles actually died, you could have a sequencer that stops every time you take them off and then resumes every time you take them on, and once it got to the end of its sequence, it hit a trigger that like disabled those sky dome devices, or like just took this out of your hand. But anyway, I could definitely see this mechanic being used in like some kind of stealth mission or some horror map where you need night vision goggles to see and you don't have a flashlight. I mean, you could just use a flashlight, but like this is just so much cooler, you know what I mean? Honestly, I have so many ideas for how to use this signal remote device. I'm not sure why I chose to do a video on just this, but I'll more than likely do a video on like 10 ways you can actually use this thing, because I have so many ideas for it. But yeah, that's working night vision goggles. Who would have thought? But yeah, anyway guys, that is how you make working night vision goggles in Fortnite Creative. Like I said, it is an illusion, and for it to look its best, you want to put the player in first person and hide their HUD so they can't see that there's actually a signal remote device like in their inventory, because that kind of ruins the feel, if you know what I mean. For people who don't actually know how Creative works, this might be a really cool trick. They might be really confused and be like, when did they add night vision goggles to the game? But really, it's just, you know, you enabling and disabling skydome devices. But anyway, I really do hope this video helped you out, and yeah. This has been Syntax. Later.